So the Phoenix Suns are 4-14 at the moment. They did win last night to the Bucks, so we'll give them credit there. Shout out to Jamal Crawford. But overall, this team has been pretty bad this season, and they are currently the third worst team in the league. And while I do actually think they could go on a run maybe mid-season where they win like 4 of 5 or whatever, I think for the most part it's safe to say they are going to end up as one of the worst teams in the league. Now I'm going to spend most of this talking about players, so I want to spend like a minute here on Igor Kokoshkov, their head coach. If I'm being honest, I haven't loved his performance so far, mainly because his offense is sometimes on some pretty basic status where it's just pick and roll after pick and roll after pick and roll. Now, I have seen a few sets here and there where there's a little bit more creativity, some off-ball action or whatever, but definitely not as impactful as you perhaps were hoping he was going to be. He does seem like a bit more of a normal head coach, if you will. Now, of course, I haven't seen every Suns game. I have not seen every Suns minute. And also, coaches have gotten better, so I don't think we should be freaking out about the dude, but he's perhaps not as good as I would have hoped out of the jump. Now, as for why the team is so bad on defense, I think that's mainly a personnel thing. Besides Ariza and Bridges, I don't think there's much defense on this team. So yeah, that's my thing on him. Now if we can focus on the players, I do think when you dive into certain things with this team and you look at certain players, I would say that there are some things to like. And to me, there are probably 4 players on this team that Suns fans should really care about. Those 4, 2 of them are, well, I would say they're all pretty obvious if you pay attention to the team. I mean, it's Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, TJ Warren, and Mikal Bridges. After that, sure, there are some players that you should keep an eye on. Eli Okubo, Josh Jackson specifically, but I'm not shooing those 2 in to be NBA players in 2 years, you know? Like, maybe they'll be in the league, but they'll just be like 15-minute-a-game guys, whereas I think Mikal Bridges has shown that he can be a real starter in this league. I mean, he can make threes, his form is good, it's carried over from college. He seems like he can be a decent defensive player, perhaps even, you know, one of the better ones in the league, whereas Josh Jackson's defense is disappointed. And we're seeing now that Mikal is already playing over Jackson, and then, of course, TJ, Booker, and DeAndre, I don't really have to explain those 3's cases. But I do want to talk about Devin Booker a bit, because, well, he's Devin Booker. And actually, before I do that, I should also say, if Trevor Ariza wants to stick around on like some JJ Redick stuff with Philly, I think that's fine. I think he would help this team out and all that stuff. But anyway, when we talk about Devin Booker at the point guard position, I think it's gone okay. I still think he's at his absolute best at the 2-guard spot. But even so, I think if Phoenix was really committed to him being this, like, whether he's technically a point guard or whatever he may be, the Kobe type of 2-guard where he basically has the ball all the time, then I do think while it's going to have some rough times, you could make it out of the other side with a dude who can lead your offense. His turnovers are a tad high. The actual assist numbers are pretty good, but when you actually watch the Suns, there are definitely moments where Devin Booker, you can just tell he's not a natural point guard, right? Like, he'll be a second late on passing it to a dude who is open. He sometimes won't even see a guy that's open. Now, there are also times when he will make a perfect, let's say, alley-oop pass to DeAndre Ayton, or he'll whip it across the floor to a wide-open shooter in the corner. Like, it's definitely on its way, but again, he's just not a natural point. So there's going to be some times when it doesn't look so good. Does that mean that the Suns should get themselves just like a real point guard? Yeah, I wouldn't be against it. I mean, I don't even think you necessarily need like a John Wall type, but maybe just like a Darren Collison who can just be consistently decent. Just take a little bit of the pressure off of Booker when it comes to playmaking and all that, and he can still make shots for when Devin Booker has the ball in his hands. So yeah, just interpret all that as you wish for my take on Devin Booker at point guard. Next, we're going to talk about DeAndre Ayton. And eventually, I am going to do one of those like player profile videos, whatever the hell you want to call them, where I just talk about one player with real footage. But based on what I've seen from DeAndre Ayton, and I will admit, I haven't dove in too much to footage and numbers, but here's what I can say about the guy. Everything about his low post skills, they are legit. The guy's got moves. He's averaging over 1 point a possession per post up, which is kind of like the fine line between being good and not good. He's strong as hell. His rebounding is pretty okay, but I actually think it could be a lot better once he stops having those weird plays where he'll just randomly like flail at the ball but not actually get the ball. These are a real thing. They're kind of inexplicable. It's just something you have to witness. I think if you try hard enough, you can find something on Twitter from like Nate Duncan tweeting about it or something. It's the weirdest thing in the world, and he occasionally does it. But his offensive game seems pretty alright. His defense, I think, has been everything we thought it was going to be. That's the number one thing with Ayton. If he can figure out the defense and if he can really defend in space and be a rim protector and all that, then I think his trajectory goes more towards being one of the best centers in the league and potentially one of the best players in the league. But we're just going to have to see. I mean, we said all these things about Towns, and so far it hasn't happened. Whereas a guy like Joel Embiid stepped in, day one, was an awesome defender. Maybe Ayton's going to be in the middle of those two. Maybe he's going to be like Towns. Maybe he's going to make a jump like Embiid. We have no real idea. Now, what I will say is Ayton's pretty athletic, and he is strong, so his physical frame would suggest that he can be that defensive player, but it's just a matter of seeing if it's going to happen. And then now we can talk about, I'm going to spend 2 minutes on TJ Warren. Not 2 minutes, I'm going to spend 10 seconds on TJ. He's legit. He's making threes now. He's a good scorer. He's on an amazing contract. Keep TJ Warren. I know one time I said they might have to trade the guy. I was full of crap. Don't trade TJ. Okay, now we're going to move on to Mikal Bridges. Seems like he can fit into this whole Suns thing really well. Space the floor, play defense, 6'7", might have some more chops as an overall offensive player if you give him some time. I think it helps that he's an older rookie. He's 22, so he's kind of having like that Kyle Kuzma impact for this team. I think he's better than his box score numbers would suggest. And his box score numbers would suggest to you that he's already pretty decent. So that's good. And if we look at specific lineups that the Suns are running, and I think this is crazy just because of how bad they've been throughout the season, for them to still have some positive lineups. But they do have one specifically that intrigues me. It's a 4-man combination of these 4 guys. DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, TJ Warren. When those 4 dudes are out there, they are a really good team. Basketball Reference has that lineup at plus 16 per 100 possessions for about the 100 minutes they've played together. NBA.com has basically the same exact number. That's good, because those are your 4 dudes who are going to lead you to whatever the hell you are for the next 5 to 10 years. So yeah, that's my take on the Suns. Basically, they're bad, for all the reasons you would expect them to be bad. But amongst all the stuff, there's some good things in there. Basically, those 4 players.